Hello everyone, and today I am making this video uh purely for my sake. I'm not really doing this for, pity or sympathy. I just want people to hear this and take away from what I've went through these past few years. I want to properly heal. And this is something that has affected my life for probably longer than I think it does. Before I get into, the specifics, I think it's time to talk a little bit about my past, right? I feel like that's more than appropriate, considering that also ties to, what I just discovered about myself, yesterday. Um, or rediscovered, I should say. So, growing up, I never really had like a stable home. We were always constantly on the move. For a good portion of my childhood, my dad was never there, so it was really just my mom struggling to provide for me, or us, I should say. Because she's also a human. She needs to she needs to eat and whatnot. But either way, there were a lot of times within those you know moving around and stuff. Like I had to switch between schools a couple of times, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But that comes with the fact that my mom would work and work and work, and I never really got to see anyone really. I stayed home alone at a very young age, I'd say. Maybe like starting like third, fourth grade, which is not a good, not a good age to be staying home alone for prolonged periods of time. When I didn't have school. Those days, like, I don't know how to describe this, but I feel like I didn't mind the loneliness, but looking back at it now, it's so fucking depressing just thinking about it in general. Like, I spent so long alone with my thoughts, or just drowning out, you know, whatever I felt as a kid back then with TV or eventually video games. But at least that helped with the loneliness. But what a healthy childhood would be to go out with family and actually going outside. That's not really a luxury that I indulged in because I was alone, and because my mom was always too poor or always too lazy to actually want to take me out anywhere. And that's not her fault, I'd say. I mean, I understand like her wanting the rest, but it's just, god damn it, that loneliness is a source of all of what I feel right now. In school, I've dealt with that loneliness with friends, but of course, with the numerous of times that I moved, like, my mom never. There was this one time in elementary. It was like first grade, basically. I never knew that I was switching schools. My mom never told me, and so honestly, that school, like, I liked that school. I'm not gonna lie. I was a bit of a troublemaker, but I liked that school. I remember in kindergarten there was a me and a friend were fighting over a girl. Her name was Penelope, I think. And honestly, little side tangent. The name Penelope, uh, when I was at that age, like 4, I don't know what age I was in kindergarten, but at that age, the name Penelope reminded me of popcorn for some reason. I don't know. I guess it started with a P. But man, I don't remember how that ended, how that drama ended, I'd say. But I never really got a goodbye from any of them. I never really got a goodbye from one of my good friends who switched to I'd say a higher tier class because I talked about this in uh my commentary channel, but I had speech therapy, and I guess I was bunched up with kids who were also behind in language, in kindergarten in particular. But my friend in that class, he was at a level to where he was good enough to be with the normal kids, I should say. So I never really got a goodbye from him. I saw him occasionally, but we never really hung out after that. And then, of course, there was the day where I switched schools. And it came as a shock to me because I was talking with a friend, one of the good friends I made in first grade. I don't remember her name, but, I enjoyed talking to her. And I was looking forward to the next day, because I would get to talk to her again. And so I never say goodbye. Funny enough. Next day, I'm in a completely different school and a completely different class with people looking at me weird. That was such a strange feeling. I don't know what I felt at that time. But a lot of my life was just moving and never saying goodbye to anyone, which was completely out of my control. But I was also really, I don't know how much control my mom had, to some extent, right? Like she decided to, but I don't know the specifics as to why I switched schools. In elementary, I made a friend from like 3rd to 4th grade. I would consider him as like my first best friend, but I never really got a goodbye from him or like, got to keep up with him during middle school because at that time we just hang out with different people. So, and then he was also like an honor kid, I'd say. So what why would he hang out with little old me, and then senior year, I didn't know how to say goodbye to one of my friends. Cuz I was a senior at middle school and he was like 7th grade, I'd say. So by the time I left, he would be a senior now. But regardless, I didn't know how to say goodbye. And the only words, I could muster up was, I had a good time and, see ya. And then there was high school and God, I met a lot of people through high school. Well, many online, because that's when I started, doing content creation, I'd say. Not seriously, like right now. I mean, I say seriously loosely because I don't know what being serious about YouTube looks like. But I made a lot of friends through online, and then I had many friends on my friend group. One or a couple which, distanced themselves from us. Because one was like from the engineering program, so he just started to hang out with engineering kids. So, he thinks he's so high and mighty because he's an engineering kid. Well, that's what I like to think, And then one just, kind of disappeared on us after high school. Actually, there was multiple that disappeared on us, but that's a side tangent. And then there was a relationship I had in the beginning of high school. I was like 13. I wouldn't say it was serious anymore, but it did fuck me up because, the person I was dating at the time, they were suicidal, and little 13-year-old me, I fucking Christ, bro. I did not know how to deal with that shit. Fuck. Of course, there was another relationship online through the end of high school. And that's where, I don't know. My last year of high school, things were looking up, but then things were not going my way, I should say. There was that driving accident I talked about on the other channel. And then there was me tackling with the feelings of, maybe I don't love her. And there was, I wasn't the best boyfriend. I was, I don't know how much of the loneliness, fuck. I don't know how much of the loneliness fucked me over, but it does not translate well into relationships. I should say that for a fact. Oh, God. So I eventually broke up with her. I'd say in a very cruel way. I didn't even give her the chance to, talk things over with her or talk things over with me. I just cut her off from my life. I'd say like a couple times, right? And I, I, I did not need to do that to her. I was, I was not the good guy. I was not the good guy. In fact, I was the bad guy. And that's what I called myself a few years after. I'm just the bad guy. Because what I learned about that relationship was that I'm not particularly a good person. But regardless, I wanted to be friends with her. And we were for a time after that. But, with a relationship as not complicated, as toxic as it was, yeah, it's hard to look past that as friends. So, I didn't really treat her that well. I don't know. Even as a friend after the fact, she came to me one time with something serious, and I tried making light of it with a joke, and she didn't really appreciate that. And at the time, I was like, well, I joked like this like so many times, but I was not taking accountability for that and just saying sorry. I never said sorry because I was so caught up in the fact that I used to joke like this before. Maybe, I think. I don't know. This is why having one perspective, can lead to biases because, this is my side of the story. But, things weren't okay still. Like I was still going through some shit at that time after the relationship, and I was having disagreements with my mom, and I kind of took that out on her a little bit. I was kind of rude to her, but in college, like there was a year where I became like an art major, and I shared one little art project I was working on to her. And I wanted to be a little sentimental, because it reminded me of her, and it reminded me of the times that I enjoyed art, and it took me back to, that time. So I shared it with her, hoping that, I'd get like, hey, give me, like, I didn't really say anything. I just said, like, hey, this reminded me of this time period in my life. And I was hoping for maybe some critiques or maybe, that it's just something praiseworthy. Because I was so used to her praise, because I never had that praise with my parents. They were never around. My dad chose his fucking wife over me, and then my mom was out working. So she was really the only praise that I had and that I appreciated. But, I took that for granted. And so when I shared that piece of art with her, ghosted. And it hurt. It hurt. But it hurt way more than I thought it should. It still hurts today, Just being left like that. And I'm not saying this is her fault, because I don't understand why she why she maneuvered the way she did, I should say. Like, I treated her poorly and she just didn't want anything to do with me. And I had that feeling for a while after that. I had the feeling that, you know, she didn't want me around. So when I sent that and then never got a response, I was like, yeah, I was right. I should back off. But today I realized that with my abandonment issues and my attachment issues, you know, I realized that I never got the praise that I really looked for. Everything I did, like, I never really did for myself because I was so fucking young to even think about that. And as of recent memory, nothing I ever did mattered because, you know, it feels like nothing I do matters. That's just as simple as it is. I should say that people do praise me for the work that I do, but to the like, none of the praise ever really amounted to the level of what her praise meant to me. I should add. So I guess that's the root of the issue as to why I'm not really motivated to do anything, why nothing really matters to me. Because I always knew that I wanted love, despite the fact that I say that I'm not really capable of it. I knew that I wanted love, but more than anything, I just wanted someone to grow with, you know? I wanted someone there with me as I grew as a person. And that was what she meant to me. And it took me until now to realize that fact. So that the silence that came with that is what really pushed me over the edge and leads me to where I am today. So, you know, what now? I figured out the root of my problem. I don't know how to do things for myself. I don't know how to accept praise, and I don't know how to praise myself and have that feeling of praise matter to me like hers did, you know. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to fix it. I always bolstered the fact that, you know, I was always able to solve my own problems despite the many issues that I have. And believe me, I have a lot of fucking issues. Oh, I don't know what to do now. I don't think this really changes anything about me except for the fact that I know where my problems lie. You know, the lack of companionship throughout my life, you know, led me to have no praise at all. And the funny part is I also never really got a final goodbye with her either. So maybe that's what's also, God. So, you know, if you guys know how to solve this little particular issue, like knowing how to do things for yourself, you know, please write that down in the comments, or share your similar experiences if you have any. I don't know how many people are gonna see this. I don't expect a lot of people to see this, because as much as I want a lot of people to hear what I have to say, I'm fine with, you know, this video flopping, because in reality, the entire purpose of this the entire purpose of this video is for me to look back onto something in this particular moment and say, I went through this shit. Or maybe I didn't go through it at all, or maybe it's just, you know, less than what it is right now. Just something to look back on and say, I went through this. with friends, alone, who fucking knows within 5 years or so. But I really wish I knew how to solve this particular problem. I really wish I knew how to, do things for myself. But I want to heal. I want to care for the people that really matter to me. Like, as long as, there is no amount of pushing or therapy that will get me to care about people, right? I will only care about the people that is within my circle. And that's that, I think. Yeah. And that's that. But, most importantly, I want to be capable of love. I want to be capable of sustaining it. But I also want to be capable of loving myself and loving what I do for my sake, for my entertainment. But yeah, before I go, if you enjoy commentaries less deep than this, I have a commentary channel. I'll put a card up, screenshot, whatever. And if you're into the finals content, please stick around, like and subscribe, yada yada, the whole shebang. Because it's going to be a slow process to heal from this big and very, very deep wound that I have in my soul. But I just hope that I have the people around me, to help out. And most importantly, I would hope to have my mom help out. The main takeaway from this whole thing is my feelings matter, and I wish I knew how to do things for myself. And I'll see you in the next video.